Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. It's the post-pandemic period. You like that alliteration? Outstanding. And do you know how to adapt your business model, your operational formula, the way you go after the business, how you come across, how you look? You say you do. You believe in adaptation, but when it comes right down to getting it done, research proves you don't know how really to adapt. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. Thank you for watching us here in WowBiz Nebraska. We have got a great show for you. We're going to move and groove. And when I use that phrase, I have to turn to Bruce Arendt, my best commentator. He moves.
As you move, I'll groove.
And groove, that's right. That? It's simpatico. Anyway, so we've got a couple of visitors here.
I noticed.
You noticed that?
Yeah.
And I'll have to tell you, these two, they're stereotypes, of course, but you know, everybody knows that you're Nebraska's top illustrator, children's book editor, et cetera, you know, and you're talking to busy people in New York. They're begging for the opportunity to publish your book.
Begging.
Begging. So anyway, so they said, why don't you come to New York and you know, we'll be happy to chat with you at that time and figure out, right? So that's the scenario, right?
Yeah.
And so you walk into the office, you're there in a fancy big building in the office and standing around waiting for the person to visit with you, and out come two young people, right? Staffers that have been there for a while, you know, and but they're both very, very different in their physical stature, right? And kind of in the energy that they exude, the way they come across, right? And we'll look to the left here, the young man with the big glasses. Yeah, I've seen that look. That was Larry King Jr., by the way. Anyway,
or Don King
God
Jr.
bless his soul. Anyway, so there's Larry, and he's got a hair, and he's an intellectual, right? You can tell right off the bat. He's an idea kid,
right?
And but also here comes this young lady, and she's emotional, very happy, positive, thrilled to see you,
bubbly, touchy-feely kind of.
Very kind of, yes, and she's just so glad to meet Mr. Bruce Arendt. How is Nebraska, by the way?
No, it's usually where is Nebraska?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've got these two people. And they're both going to individually visit with you in the lobby. They're going to sit down and chat with you, and they're going to vet you, right? You might get turned away because based upon the interaction in the lobby, pitching your new children's book. Okay. Now tell the audience right now in WowBiz Nebraska just 30 seconds of what your new book is, please.
Well, it's not a book yet, but it's a manuscript and art that actually I have an agent that represents me, and there's about 15 different publishers looking at it right now, and I based it on. Not COVID, but on germs and washing your hands and all of that. It kind of was kind of relevant, and I made it gross and I made it funny and all of that. So hopefully, you know.
What's the target audience? 5 to 10-year-olds? 3 to 5-year-olds?
I would say anywhere from about 5 to even older than 10, because I think it's everybody that reads it thinks it's pretty funny. But it probably 5 to 10 would be safe.
Okay. So you've got that, and we all know about that. We're excited for you. We're rooting to be able to come in and talk to the boss. So let's bring the young lady first. And she says, I've been asked to visit with you for a few minutes, Mr. Arendt.
Yes.
And you're reading her. You're looking at her physical stature, her attitude, her happy smile.
Right.
Yes. And so tell me, what would you kind of emphasize? What would you say to this young lady who's very nice, but you know dang well she's got the power to escort you out of the building?
Well, I would want to tell you that the kids that are going to be reading this are going to they're going to feel good when they read this book. They're gonna have a lot of good vibes on the whole thing, and they're going to be inspired to wash their hands and avoid germs and all this kind of, and stay healthy. And it's a fun book. It's lively, and it'll make them laugh. They're gonna, like I said, it's a feel-good, fun book. So that's kind of where
I think that's wonderful, Mr. Arendt. Thank you so much. Exactly what I was hoping to hear. I'll go tell the boss. Now. Here comes our second guy. He's been going to Yale for 2 years, and so he's here, and he wants to visit with you a little bit, right? And he's gonna approach the whole project a little bit differently. So go ahead and pitch this young man with these glasses, and he's going to take notes. Go ahead.
I would say, in light of the pandemic and the recent the raising of the awareness of germs and how to avoid germs and sickness and all of that, kids are going to become a lot more aware of the science behind keeping your hands clean and all, and that sort of thing. And what is a microbe, and what's a, you know, what are germs, but I made the germs funny and endearing, but yet mischievous enough that you know you need to avoid them. So but they're going to learn the science behind what's going on here.
Outstanding job. I really mean that. You adapted. That was that was a great example, hands-on.
Well, they're
changing the flow and the language that you weave into the pitch.
They're going to interpret it through their own filters.
Yes, but you definitely played to their obvious bias and style and so on.
Okay.
Good for you, Mr. Arendt.
So is that a deal?
That's a deal. Somebody back there, get out here, get the guy and sign him up. Now, this is partially all based upon your ability to, first impressions, right? Mm-hmm. And be able to read people.
Right.
And then intuitively just kind of steer yourself towards something that would be good for them or good with them.
Well, something that they would be able to wrap their personal brain around.
And re-talk about it to somebody else using your language.
Yeah, because what you don't want to do is start talking to them in what would be sort of a foreign language, so to speak. I mean, where their eyes kind of glaze over and they're not understanding where you're coming from. You have to have a sense of audience.
Yeah,
as to who
sense of audience. We should remember that phrase. You know, it'd be twice as tough if you were pitching them cold on the phone. You didn't know what they look like.
Now that's a lot harder.
That's that's a trick in itself. Now we're moving now towards a topic that's extremely important. It's always been big for 20 years. Personal branding,
right.
Bruce, has been a big deal, and people are now during this furloughed period, and we're all kind of reduced to anonymous people, and they're all sitting around in their robe and their pajamas saying, "I need a job."
You know them from a little screen on the Zoom call.
That's
about it.
And we're supposed to assume that is actually fully their full expression of who they are. It's very tough. Well, anyway, so personal branding kind of brings out, as everybody out there in WowBiz Nebraska land knows, kind of brings out the key features that separate you from other people, right? So you can kind of remember you. I had a guy tell me the other day, he's from Lincoln, very nice man. I was kind of looking for some prospect activity, and he knew me from years ago, and he said, "I'll never forget you because that last name Hinderrocker is so unusual, and you always explain it in kind of a funny way, and it kind of sticks." Yeah. Which I thought was better than nothing. It probably isn't the strongest, differentiator, but it's something.
It hooked him. I mean, he
remembered.
it did.
He did have an association that was mostly positive.
Right.
So let's do a personal branding thing right now.
Okay.
Okay. Now it'll be a little more subtle than these folks right here. All right. Because I know
you're gonna frizz your hair?
I know you know what you're doing, right? So I'm going to try to make it a little more subtle. Okay. Let's pretend you see me walking down the street.
Okay.
And I've got this jacket, right, a little black blazer and so on, and I walk up to you and I chat, and we're maybe sitting at a coffee shop and strike something up, right? And we're chatting a little bit. I want you to use 3 to 5 adjectives, kind of tell me how you would describe me in this garb, and then I'm going to change the garb right here on camera, and we'll try to do it again and see what your perception is of my personal brand in this theoretical case.
Okay. 3 to 5 adjectives?
Yeah.
I would say professional, put together. Intelligent, and probably business savvy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. I would take that. Now I'm going to change my jacket. All right, we're going to change the persona, and as I do that, what would be, when you were talking to the so-called professional, put-together guy, what would be a couple things that you'd be thinking to yourself? Now I want to make sure I do this or do that or don't say this, or what's going on in your head when it comes to how to handle that kind of a person?
Well, I probably want to measure my dialogue using words that I would be not highbrow, but they're things that I think he might relate to. Okay. In terms of business or
just kind of throw in some phrases or something that a business person would relate to.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
Not overused words like paradigm shift. Not things like that.
Well, I like that one.
It is a good one, but it's been so used. Things like that. But I mean, you might tend to use phrases that you would be more familiar in a business setting.
Yes. Right. By the way, if somebody asked me the number one word that I would sneak into a dialogue with a business person, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Trajectory.
Trajectory.
Yes. So what is your trajectory?
Wow.
In other words, where are you going? Kind of what's your arc?
Yeah, right.
It's a really good word.
It's a great question.
It's not a word that everybody says, laying down your trajectory. What I mean? Anyway, so here I am in this. You see me here, I'm in a coffee shop, ordering my latte, whatever. So what do you think here? If you wanted to chat with me, how would you adjust your the dialogue or the style, to the other one?
Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No.
No. I mean, tell me how you would. What would
I'm
you
kidding.
say? You literally think I'm going to be a rough and violent
Yeah,
person?
I'm just joking.
No.
I'm just joking.
So personal brand now.
I would probably, depends on if you rode in on a bike.
No.
Okay, it's not a bike thing?
No.
Okay. That's very interesting. I would probably just be a little more casual. A little more down to earth maybe.
I see.
I wouldn't be condescending in a
No.
way. I mean, I don't mean that in that way.
Sure.
But I would just be a little bit more down to earth. I wouldn't try to throw out, paradigm.
MBA stuff.
No.
You wouldn't
MBA
talk
stuff.
like that
Yeah,
to
no,
a guy
just
that
be
wore a jacket
I
like
talk to a
this.
regular guy.
Uh-huh.
I'm a regular guy, so I would just probably
Sure.
talk to you like I'm just
So this is kind of an average look for you.
average guy.
Okay,
Right.
interesting. Well, I guess I'll put that in the back of my hipster closet. All right. Well, listen, it's WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you, Bruce Arendt, for your commentary, your lucid, perceptual descriptions.
Right or wrong, that's what it was.
Oh,
right?
I love the freedom of expression that you had there, right or wrong. Well, listen, we're going to continue. We're going to soar into the middle of the show here, Todd, for a second.
Okay.
And we're going to wrap this first half of the show up. But I do want to tell our audience here in WowBiz Nebraska, do not leave, because we have a really cool, we got a funny thing coming right up after our little break, right? And it's going to talk about entrepreneurial development, entrepreneurial behavior, decisions you have to make if you're ready to say, I'm sick and tired of sitting at home, I'm not doing enough with my life, I'm going to go out on my own, I'm going to do some self-employment, and some of the key things you have to think about.
I made that mistake once.
Yes, as did I. And, but then we're also going to talk a little bit about strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about going farther and farther in your career, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at that time, okay? If that's okay with you. Now I'm going to get down here, sit back down where I belong instead of standing up and
I like that jacket.
lecturing. I like it as well, although it's
really
going to be very warm here in this particular.
Oh, it will. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Listen, this show is brought to you by Nebraska. All right, you're familiar with Nebraska, and those of you that are wondering, or maybe have heard the word Nebraska, let me just fill you in right now exactly. There's 4 questions. If you can ask these questions, just focus on these questions, you will know what Nebraska is all about. All right, I'm talking to you, Bruce. I'm talking to everybody in the universe, particularly Nebraska.
Okay.
All right, so the first question I want you to ask yourself in all sincerity now is, what do young people, young talented people, who could possibly be workers for my company, or maybe customers, right? What do they think about my company and other companies like my company here in this particular community? All right, that's the first most important question you can ask today. I asked the question in Lincoln, Nebraska 2.5 years ago, about 5 very bright young people, and after a lot of hemming and hawing and a couple different cups of coffee, they finally said, boring.
Really?
Not interesting. I said, why are you leaving Nebraska? Where are you going? Your family's here, et cetera, et cetera. We think the companies in Nebraska, by and large, it's just a generalization obviously, are just repeating the same thing they've been doing 5, 10, 15, 20 for 20 years. Now we're not saying it's not profitable, it may be profitable, that's fine.
But boring.
But boring, predictable,
Yeah.
all right? Yeah. You don't need a lot of creativity to run a business like that. And the second thing is, because of that, we'll end up in the back of the office after we graduate or whatever, and there's not going to be the opportunity to lead the charge,
Right.
do anything special or unique with our life, significant, innovative, new. There's no newness. We're out of here. So that's the first issue. I want you to just stop for a second. If you run a company or are involved in the management of a company in this state of Nebraska, just sit there for just a moment and say, Recruits think we are dull. Customers think we are boring, not capable of doing anything, quote, and this is a subjective term, interesting.
Right.
All right? Just sit with that. Now we're going to move on to the second point. Okay, Lynn, how do we be interesting? What do we do? Right? The key is to be able to get both customers and recruits in by being interesting, right? And the easiest way, and this is a broad statement, but the easiest way to do is do something new, all right? Do something new. Now just stop for a second and think about that, because I know there's people, dismiss this one. I mean, think about it for just a minute. There's that huge opportunity because of the web and all kinds of things. Everybody is waiting for you to roll out a new product or service, right? New procedures, new internal procedures that are more efficient, right? A new leadership style. Let's get some new leaders in here, some new supervisors, some new managers, and let's tighten it up and raise the bar.
Yeah. New way to buy the product, possibly.
New way to buy the product, new distribution, new partners. God forbid we partner up with some people out there that could possibly help us lower our costs and increase our volume and so on. Right? New. So that's number 2.
Okay.
It's called Nebraska. I mean, come on, let's put it together. Well, what do we do? How do we do that? What do we do? As soon as you innovate, as soon as you do any of those new things that I just alluded to briefly, you don't have to do them all, you choose 1 or 2 and kind of move forward, then you need somebody to glamorize it, publicize it, tell people about it.
Let the world know.
Let the world know. I don't care if it's a home run. It doesn't have to be a home run, but I don't care if you got a new idea. You woke in the middle of the night, the CEO said, I got an idea, I read some research, I think we should try, boom, you got something new.
Right.
Now, as long as you have somebody that is committed to writing about it, videos, audio podcast, whatever it is, right? People are going to see it eventually. You're going to come on and they're going to go, they're doing something interesting there. I might go back to Kearney. I might go back to Wayne. That sounds pretty interesting. Maybe I could fit into that deal right there. All right, so we're proceeding down here, right? Right.
Because you're making forward progress.
You're making progress. And then 4th is then say, now if you're really honest, now if you're a business owner and you've listened this far, and you say, Lynn, I'm going to have to tell you the truth of the matter. I don't know anything about innovation. I inherited the company from my old man. We do it pretty much the same way for the last 30 years. I don't know anything about innovation. I don't know anything about product development or partnership or whatever. No problem. You're a member of Nebraska. We do free, F-R-E-E, Zoom training on, guess what? Innovation, how to innovate, how to roll out a new product, how to change, how to develop a new concept, how to re-strategize, how to reposition, how to get new market, open up market segments, how to tell a story that people find interesting.
Yeah. It's quite the resource. It really is.
I can't believe, because people say, and they go, this is interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. I just don't get it. You get it. You don't want to innovate, but you got to innovate because these people are heading for the hills. Yeah. Now that's all I have to say about Nebraska. Go to Nebraska.com. Keep those 4 ideas in mind and take a quick look at what you're doing right there. And just remember, the key factor for success is your ability to be new, do new, and then showcase, publicize, and promote your newness. It's that simple. All right, now you know what Nebraska is all about. Bruce Arendt knows. He's a very happy man. He's always wondered exactly what
now I'm fulfilled.
This innovation ecosystem is all about. Now we're fulfilled. But we're into the back end of WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker, and I want to challenge you and share with you this little story. It's so symbolic. I've actually read someplace that everything in our life is symbolic. If we can see this moment right here is metaphorically significant. Someday you'll go, you know what that really represented? But anyway, so I want to take you back to the farm when I was 14 years of age. I grew up over in Iowa, as I think I might have told you once before. Sure. And when you live in the farm, especially in the summer, there's nothing going on. There's just nobody around, nobody to play with. Right. And I was about 14, and I was bored to death. It was hot, just hot out there, and
I had the same experience.
You've been through that?
Well, yeah, I grew up that way.
So anyway, my father, who enjoyed the church, a religious life, very important to him, and he said, Lynn, I'm going to go to the Bible camp, go to the church camp, and hear the new roving minister. There's a minister that comes through the area, and I want to hear him, and he said, you want to come along? Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm 14. Right. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go sit in a church pew? Well, okay, Dad, sure, no problem, right? I mean, it was a tough decision. But anyway, so I jumped in the car and we drove there, and we pulled into the church camp, beautiful big camp, trees and log cabins and all that, and a beautiful swimming pool as you kind of drive into the camp area. And it's beautiful blue swimming pool, just a gorgeous area, not a person in the pool, right? Not a person there. And except for there was a lifeguard there, a young lady. But so we're driving by, and my dad looked at me and he showed compassion. He showed empathy to me. He said, Lynn, maybe you'd like to go swimming instead of coming to church with me. I said, sure, Dad, that sounds good.
Yeah.
He says, unfortunately, we don't have any swim trunks for you, you know? I said, yeah, well, I don't know, I guess not. And he says, well, you know what? He says, I think I know a guy, I can ask him. We'll see if we can get some for you.
Right.
Okay, that sounds good. So we get there to the church area, and here comes the minister and Dad said hi and welcomed him and so on. Well, this guy happened to be rather rotund.
Yeah.
Okay, he had a 52-inch waist. Okay, and I'm Lynn the Pin. At that point, I was really, I know that's hard to believe, but I was really a skinny kid at that time. 14-year-old skinny
14-year-old kid, yeah.
I thought I was going to be a football star, and I would bulk up as we went. You know, it would eventually.
Deal with that later.
It would come to me.
Right.
Yes. Well, anyway, so my dad, very nice, you know, asks him, and he goes, "Oh, sure, no problem. I brought some along. Here they are, you know." And he's holding them out here, and I said, "Dad," he said, "No problem. We'll take care of it." He says, so he escorts me back to the pool area in the dressing room, and he finds a little, like a safety pin, you know, a big old-fashioned safety pin, right?
Yeah.
And he says, all right, take off your clothes here, get ready. And so I did that, and he said, let me just kind of pull this around your waist. He doubled it up.
Wrapping it around.
Yeah. That's where the twisted swim trunk fad came from, by the way. But no, he pulled it around my waist, at least doubled it completely, and then, you know, pinned it up so I'd stay on my hips there. And he said, you'll be fine, this will be good. Have a good time, you know, I'll come get you after the service, you know. I said, okay. And so I walk out in the swimming pool area. Now, there's nobody there again, like I said, except for this beautiful 16-year-old girl that's sitting up there with nothing to do.
The lifeguard.
The lifeguard, and she's working on her nails, you know, and looking around, you know.
Sure.
And gives me a little smirk, kind of that's how she said hi to me. And so I walked in, you know, and I thought, hey, you know, let's
I got this.
I got this, okay? Because I thought I was a first-class swimmer, and I was going to show this woman where I was at. You know,
you were 14.
Right,
You know? Hey.
I was 14, and I had some unusual garb on, as they say. So anyway, I go right past her, and I go right by her, and I go right to the to the diving board.
Yeah.
And I had a decision to make,
Yeah.
but I made that decision quickly and without forethought. So I get up there and I boom, 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 right, and I get to the end and I jump up as high as I can go, try to impress upon her how athletic I am, right? But at that moment, that precise moment, here comes the wind. It must have been a gust, 40 miles an hour. If I had a parachute on, I would have actually floated out of the pool area. But anyway, I almost did have a parachute because it came up right underneath these bulbous. That's a good word.
It is a good word.
I have these massive swim trunks on.
Did it affect your trajectory?
Came right on my trajectory. It really harmed my trajectory. Came up underneath this. And I looked over at this woman. I said, "This is terrible. This is a terrible thing that I'm doing right now."
This is all happening in a flash.
In a flash, and I look over at her, you know, in midair, and she's like, "This is a smirk of all smirks."
Yeah.
So anyway, I hit the water because I want to be just invisible at this moment. I don't want to be seen. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah. And I hit the water, and the air was underneath the legs of the swimming trunk. The legs, and it was full of air. They acted like a thing, kept me above the water. I couldn't get under the water. I could not get under the water, and so I could avoid that. Now the smirk is like, she don't believe it. She can't believe what she's seeing, right? And I was triple embarrassed at this moment. And so I had to get out of her sight, so I had to push my swim trunks down.
All the big bubbles.
A lot of bubbles, right? It wasn't a subtle move at all. So I
hard to be cool after that.
Very hard to be cool. That's the opposite of cool. And I got underwater and I thought, I don't want to ever come back up. I don't want to come back. And so the question is, now we talked about everything as a metaphor. And by the way, I went down to the end of the swimming pool and sat there like this for like 2 hours. You know, I couldn't come near her again.
Yeah, didn't want to face
oh my goodness. So. The question is, what does this symbolize insofar as entrepreneurs are concerned? The question, the real decision I had to make is, do I go ahead and jump in feet first, or could I have gone up and dove into the water? I think I said Dovin just now. I don't think that's really a word.
It is now.
Anyway, so right down into the water, and that was the key decision I have to make. Now, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to walk out into the swimming pool.
You're going to go headlong, or are you going to?
You have to decide: are you going to go deep into the marketplace? Are you going to target marketing? You're going to be very precise about the niche you're going to serve, or do you just kind of jump into the pool of entrepreneurial mess and waves and energy and flop around until an opportunity kind of washes up on you and you say, oh, I could do that, I could sell that, Yeah. Now that's it's a long anecdote to get to that strategic question.
But it's a good question.
I think so.
Because it's a real question. When you're going to decide to go on your own, you've got to decide if you're going to go all in, head first, or are you just going to kind of put your toe in, and test the water.
And do you know enough about what market niche you want to penetrate to actually dive into it? Or do you just have to jump in and say, I'm a freelancer, I'm working for myself, would you like to hire me? And then maybe somehow you find something that you're particularly good at. You say, I specialize in insurance, et cetera. Yeah. You see, that can happen.
When I went on my own in 2009.
You did it right, see.
Well, that's up for debate still. But I dove in head first, and I had been in publishing for 20 years prior to that, but not in children's publishing.
Yes.
I've been in architectural publishing.
Right.
And I knew I didn't know it, but I knew that I could learn, and I figured if I don't just go all in, it's not going to happen. So right or wrong, I dove in head first.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
And was it the right niche? Did you dive into the right area? You did, really,
didn't you? I think so.
You?
I mean, I've had, mixed results.
But most entrepreneurs don't necessarily dive into the right niche when they dive.
Right.
That's the key thing. Listen, we're wrapping up WowBiz Nebraska here. I can't believe how rapidly it flew by. It was the hilarity of this last anecdote. Everything is metaphorical, and we got to remember that. That is the solar and the somber tone of the whole thing. But we're happy that Bruce Arent is here with us, and we're happy that you joined us here at WowBiz Nebraska. Watch us as frequently as possible. I guarantee you there will not be incremental knowledge, but exponential breakthroughs, wisdom, insight, at least now and then.
That will affect your trajectory.
That trajectory will be high and far.
Right.
That's right. All right, so for Bruce Arent and Lynn Hinderrocker, thanks for watching again right here on WowBiz Nebraska. We'll see you next time. It'll be great.